Hello, everybody. Jonathan Pulley here with West Coast Weather. Today is October 18th, and let's talk about the exciting weather coming up. I'm finally getting back to doing YouTube videos as we are about to enter our first active pattern of the storm season, the 2025-2026 storm season. So without further ado, let's get right into things. Right now, we're looking at the current satellite image of the Northeast Pacific Ocean. You can see a couple storm systems out here. You can see one that is currently starting to impact us right now with a pretty robust cold front that's currently moving down Vancouver Island into Washington State right now. Winds are starting to pick up over the northwest interior around Whidbey Island, the San Juans, as some of those winds are wrapped around the Olympic Mountains. Some of the coastal areas are also getting some stronger winds. You can see also some cool convection down here near the tropics and subtropics down near Hawaii down here. You can see some tropical activity way down here off of Mexico. So kind of a cool view of things. So let's get right into looking at some weather models. This is a big picture. I might take a second to realize what we're looking at. Here's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California down here. Here's Hawaii right here, Alaska up here, Russia up here, and Japan over here. So this is looking way up in the atmosphere around 25,000 feet. And this is kind of looking at low pressure and high pressure systems, but way up in the atmosphere, kind of where things originate along the jet stream. So right now, we got our system that we were just looking at satellite. It's coming down the coastline ahead. It coming out from the northwest out of the Gulf of Alaska down into our area. It's kind of weakening as it comes in, but it's still a pretty strong cold front. However, notice how we have all these little systems here, little waves in the jet stream, and these troughs are what dig down, colliding the colder air from the polar regions with the warmer air from the tropics, and that's what gets us our storms, our wind, our rain. It's basically what creates the unstable patterns of the Earth. So looking at this, we can play this too. This is about Sunday, tomorrow. You can see a ridge is starting to build in. It's going to give us a bit of quiet weather on Monday and Tuesday before the jet stream over the Pacific Ocean really gets cranking. Look at how tight these little lines are. That's what we call a gradient in the weather maps. And that's basically showing that there's a big change in pressure or temperature and winds over a short distance. This is where usually when you get really tight lines, that's where you're getting the really strong gradients. There's a pretty strong jet stream. That's usually where our storm system's mainly from. Look at this big storm mid-latitude cyclone that develops on this European model run around the Wednesday, Thursday time frame. This is going to bring a strong front in and likely an atmospheric river as well on the day on Thursday and the Friday. Right before that, you can see there's a little bit of a weaker front that moves through as well, but that's going to move in on Wednesday. And then after this, notice how this kind of hangs out. Look at this. It starts developing a pretty strong storm system right off of Oregon and dives that right into the Pacific Northwest. Look at that really tight gradient over California and stuff over there. And that's going to be our third or fourth system in line coming up. And then after that, models start to really disagree. Are we going to get a ridge building and calming us down? Or are we going to get more storm systems? So let's first take a look here. This is the 300 millibar wind speeds. So this is about 30,000 feet in air. This gives us a good idea of where the jet stream is. You can see the strong winds that outlines where the jet stream is, the colder air up here in the north towards the polar regions, the warmer air down here, and this is where the jet stream is where they collide. So let's go in the next week. So this is about Tuesday afternoon. Here's into Wednesday. Look at this jet stream. It's super powerful with winds approaching over 200 miles per hour here in the core of the jet stream. And that's what's going to lead to these really powerful storm systems forming over the Pacific and the potential for a big storm impact later next week, but still has some uncertainty. And I'll show you guys that here in a moment. But this is just a really cool visualization of how the jet stream works. Kind of looks like a river in the sky. And that's why we kind of say that the atmosphere is fluid. It kind of acts like water, and you can notice that there's kind of like rocks in the stream that kind of break it apart. What you would see in like a river around here in the Cascades or something like that. So now let's take a closer look at things. Here's British Columbia up here, Washington, Oregon, California down here. So this is looking at precipitation over a 6-hour period. So this is showing on maybe an inch of rain in the 6-hour period, and also showing pressure in millibars. Ignore some of the other lines. They've really crowded this graphic out. So notice as we go through this evening, Saturday evening, as I'm recording this, And then in the Sunday, look at this front goes right down the area. You can see that there's a pretty decent pressure gradient. There's a 996 millibar low that you can see right here. It's weakening as it dives down over the area, but still has a decent pressure gradient, which is going to lead this blustery, the locally windy conditions for some of the area, and I'll show the wind speeds here in a moment. But you can see some showers and potentially for a couple isolated thunderstorms like they'll remain over the day on Sunday, and then we dry out Monday and Tuesday. A really weak front tries to move in. I hardly even like calling it a front for us. Maybe a few showers on Vancouver Island and Southwest British Columbia, but it dies off before it even makes it to Washington. Then here comes that second front that I showed that was coming in on the day on Wednesday. And then here's Thursday/Friday system. Notice how the precipitation is quite a bit heavier. There's a bit of an atmospheric river going on. However, it's not going to be sitting over the area for long, so it's going to be a relatively weak atmospheric river. There's a lot of moisture with it, but it's not staying around, like hanging around for 3 days straight. So we don't really need to worry about too much flooding threat, and we haven't really gotten that much rain this fall, so the soil is not that moist at the moment. And then we like to continue showers from Thursday, Friday into the weekend. And then here's that big storm system that the European model shows plowing right in the Northern California and Southern Oregon. That would likely lead to some damaging winds down there. And models are kind of fluctuating. They're not sure if it's going to go way up north, go right into us, or go down south into, say, Northern California or not. So I'm going to show you here some potential solutions. I kind of gave you a hint right there. I forgot the playback. So here's about Friday next week. So watch this. This is the GEM, the Canadian model, and this is this is kind of fantasy at the moment, but this is kind of just showing the general solutions of what that storm late next week and the next weekend is kind of looking like on the model. So look at this. The GEM has this really deep 960 millibar cyclone coming right in the Northwest Washington, Vancouver Island. Look at that. Look at that really tight pressure rate. This would likely lead to some very damaging winds, some gusts probably approaching over 90 miles per hour on the coast, maybe 60, 70 plus inland. However, models are really disagreeing on what this storm's going to do. Is it going to be this big low, or is it going to go somewhere else? So now let's show you the GFS. This is looking at pressure anomaly, so it's basically how much the pressure is from normal. So notice when we go back here, you see how deep gray and green, that's just showing how like ridiculously low pressure this is compared to what we normally get this time of the year. So it just shows how unusual of a storm, if we were to get this specific solution, which is unlikely that it happen, but it is a potential solution. However, look at on the GFS, the American model. Where's the storm? It's this little tiny thing down here that just dies off the California coastline. It's like you can hardly see it, and then high pressure builds in right afterwards and like calms us down. And then let's move over to the European model. So this is the weekend, and here we go. It plows a relatively strong storm system, a compact storm system in the Northern California. So it's like the models are kind of all over the place. It's going to be like a really strong storm system that kind of weakens it as it comes in. Is it going to keep its strength? These are all questions that we're going to have to answer as we get closer to this. This is still about 8 days out, and it's completely normal to have models all over the place for something like this. So we're just going to continue to watch this. This has the potential to cause some major disruptions that at least somebody, if it comes in like the European model or the Canadian model. But the past couple of days, some models have been showing some crazy solutions, and it's worth watching, even though that the chances of a major storm system are there. It's not set in stone, and some models like the GFS don't even show a storm system happening. So it's just gonna be something to watch over the next few days into next week. So now let's take an extra close look at things right at the Pacific Northwest. Here's Washington, here's Oregon, Southwest BC, Vancouver, BC up here. This is looking at surface wind gusts in miles per hour. So you watch this evening. This is about 6 p.m., about an hour after I'm recording this right now. It's probably my video is probably gonna get posted around this time. You can see winds are starting to pick up over the Northwest interior, where those winds wrap around the Olympic Mountains and get accelerated downstream. Notice how there's some wind gusts that are looking to approach the 50-mile-per-hour mark for parts of Whidbey Island, San Juan. This evening may cause some power outages. There's a lot of leaves still on trees. You can see the coast is also breezy as well. And as we go in the overnight in the Sunday morning, look at how the winds start picking up over the rest of the Puget Sound as well. Maybe 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts Sunday morning and lasting most of the day really, and actually intensifying by around noon. So may get some light tree damage over there in the across the Puget Sound. Really gusty over in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon as well. Even Spokane beginning on the wind action with maybe some gusts approaching over 40 miles per hour. But I want to point a little extra attention. Notice this up here near Whidbey Island along the Strait of Juan de Fuca right here. Notice how the winds really come down. You see where that orange is? Let me zoom in actually right on Seattle. So here's Whidbey Island right here. Look at this strong surge of westerly winds that come in around the early afternoon time frame. It's even showing some wind gusts even approaching 53, 55 miles per hour. That would certainly do some tree damage and likely some scattered power outages if that's going to happen. There's likely going to be some big waves along West Beach on Whidbey Island near Port Townsend. Maybe the southern San Juan Islands as well. So some pretty windy conditions. If this happens, then the winds will slowly die down as we go in the Sunday evening before they let up. So now let's look at lightning flash density, basically what the European model thinks where lightning might be. What I'm going to really focus on is tomorrow, Sunday. There's going to be a pretty intense convergence zone that is looking to set up. Let me go to a different time frame. Here we go. Sky starts picking up. Maybe Whidbey Island gets in on a little bit of the action. It's not really looking like much around noon. It's when those westerly winds come in and collide with the southerly winds. You get these you get showers and then maybe some thunderstorms that pop up as you get the winds converging and pushing up the air. So you can see the European model is pretty excited about this pretty intense convergence zone setting up maybe from the Everett Lake Stevens area down to the Seattle Bellevue area and east into the Cascades and Snoqualmie Pass area. And then that calms down into the evening just like the westerly winds are. So maybe get some thunderstorms. There might be some hail with that as well. We got some of that last weekend as well. So lightning isn't like a super common thing in Washington, but we usually this time of the year it's really in those convergence zones that we got to watch out for. Here's snowfall totals over the next week or 10 days or so. You can see not these systems aren't going to be that cold. We're still early in the season, but the higher terrain may get some decent snow totals over the next week or so. So good that it could at least see some snow and start getting out of some of the drought conditions that we've had over the summertime. Now looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook from the professionals at the Climate Prediction Center, which is a part of NOAA. Here, they generally are seeing below average temperatures being favorable during the time frame from October 24th to the 28th. That's when those storm systems are going to be coming in as well, likely dragging in some cooler air from the northern Pacific Ocean. Precipitation, pretty obvious, above average precipitation is favorable during this time frame. And then looking a little farther, 8 to 14 day time frame, this is around late October, early November, Halloween area. The confidence in the forecast goes down quite a bit, but they're generally expecting us to remain unsettled and a bit cooler than normal. And unsettled weather usually means that we're getting more rain than normal. So we like to continue to get active weather through that time period. And here's just kind of for a fantasy purposes, here's from November 1st through the 14th. This is the 3 to 4 week outlook. You can see we may remain active. They're still favoring us to have above average precipitation. Models are kind of disagreeing, but it's also that time of the year that we are getting really active. November is typically one of the busiest times of the year for storms here in the Pacific Northwest. So it's not really too much of a surprise to see this coming. So I hope everybody enjoyed this forecast. I'm going to start trying to do at least a couple forecasts every week that help give some visuals to the whole forecasting process. I kind of took a bit of a hiatus over the summer and late spring, but I really want to get back into the groove of things. So thank you everybody for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe buttons down below if you enjoyed this video and found it informative. And I'll talk to everybody in the next video.